Hey, welcome back to another Black City Coffee vlog. In this video, like I said, we were going to talk about basically the middle phase, start manipulating that ROR curve. And I'm just going to share with you what I found. I recorded this already back down in the lab, but file got corrupted. So here I am. I've got 20 minutes before I got to go to work. So let's see if I could try to explain this. Let's go to roast path. All right. Let's choose... we were talking about a Gucci or a natural, right? So let's pull up a natural for you. Okay, so batch size, we're turning around. This one we turned around at 140. Okay, that's pretty good. So I'm thinking back at my notes. So I got my roast log here. And if I look at here, Pt.3, if I did my due diligence, I should have written that down, 282, right here. Bam, cool. So this is a production roast, and this is based off my sample roast, number 3, which I liked. So I go here to produce a production roast. Okay, so I'm writing TP, turning point, 141, and I put a question mark here. Too slow? Is that too slow? So I'm thinking about it. I did a charge at 350 and no soak. So the reason why I'm not soaking anymore for this is because I really want to get my coffees to turn around quicker. You see how far along before I actually start basically roasting the coffee and getting the coffee heated up. So this could be two things, like I said in the last video. My batch size could be too large, or my charge could be too low. Okay, so I'm thinking I could do one of two things. I don't really want to touch batch size yet, although it might be beneficial to adjust batch size. I'll just have to run that test. I'm thinking I don't really want to charge too hot. It's already a natural. It's already going to be pretty susceptible to scorching and facing, being a natural processed coffee. So I'm thinking the next thing I want to try and adjust is batch size. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to charge it or have a batch size of maybe 800. And I'm going to try that and I'll get back to you guys. But I'm thinking 141, maybe is that too slow? At this time when I'm turning around, I have my power at full. 2.2 kPa on my machine, okay? And I'm trying to get this ROR to climb. And so that's why my power is on full, right? So we're driving along here. And I know I need to hit sort of like a peak at some point. Now hitting a peak around what, 31? We do this graph here. Maybe it's 31, 32 ROR. It could be kind of high. I'm not really sure yet. And this sort of like dipping under could be an issue as well, but let's just see. Okay. My goal, right? You're supposed to know where you're going so you can get there. My goal is to have, I'll call yellow at yellow, and then increase my air to about a medium airflow. Okay. And so from here, I will keep decreasing my heat and fuel. All right, and I will just watch the ROR and kind of see how it behaves. If it's starting to go up, I decrease my fuel. If it's starting to go down, I increase my fuel. So it's kind of like, to me, it's kind of like driving. And I'm not really sitting there micro every single time. You kind of have to look at it and see like kind of like a projection. You're looking at all the things you're trying to translate all this information at once. You're looking at the beans, you're looking at the dryer, you're looking at the time, you're looking at the temperature. And that's something that can't really be, I think, conveyed very well online, looking at a static curve and being not at the roaster and not, kind of considering all the things that can go on during a roast session. It happens very quickly, within 10 to 12 minutes or something like that. So, that stuff is just, I'm just tell you straight up, comes with time and being at the roaster and with experience. In my experience, okay? So I'm sure somebody could teach you better, but that's why I'm just saying, I'm just sharing what I know, okay? How much time do I have? All right, about 20 minutes, cool. Okay, so we're steadily decreasing, and I'll even come down to like below 1 kPa for sure. Maybe I need to come down even lower. So don't be afraid to like break thresholds or do what you need to do, especially if you have a Mill City roaster. They're very responsive on the heat just because they have a lot of power. So I feel like it gives you even more like a greater margin of error. You can really mess with that gas valve to really find and learn how your machine works, because there's some machines like the Pt.3, I think it only has like a couple settings. It barely has like two airflow settings, things like that. So less things to kind of worry about, less things to move and manipulate, but potentially less control. Whereas a Mill City roaster, you have all these things to control, so potentially more control, but also potentially more things to worry about, okay, and monitor. But this is the machine I have, so I have to just simply learn how to use it to do the things that I want it to do. All right, so we're moving along here, and right before we're going to hit first crack, I start hearing outlier pops. Pop, pop, or crack, crack. And then that's when I'll start to increase my air to like in the realm of high on my machine. You can go from like 70 and to 100. That's basically high. So you can be on the lower end of that high or the high end of that high. And so I'll start to increase here to like the low end of that high. And then when I hear the crack going off, I'll mark it. I will increase my power or my fuel to about 1 kPa, because I need to kind of like combat the tendency of coffee to like crash after that huge explosion of air. That way I don't get this like crazy sloping line here. And I get this really nice gradual line. So I combat that first crack. It doesn't always work, because maybe I need to, I don't know, return higher or come back higher on the fuel. But right here, I marked it at 831. That sounds good. 375. That sounds good. And I increase my air, and I also increase my fuel at this time. And then probably around like 15 or something like that. We'll get into that later. We'll get into the third phase later. But here I feel in the middle phase is maybe the most hard to really like nail, and it's really just machine operation. Okay, you need to go, your target. So as far as like establishing your targets, like I need to get to first crack at a certain temperature and time, because say you're doing a light roast. So this one I was doing a light roast, or I was trying to, right? So I'm like, I need a first crack at like 831, and I know that I get first crack around 875-ish on this machine. Okay, so I have this target in mind. So I know I need to get there in a certain amount of time. So the tricky thing will be with you at the roaster is how much do I turn down the fuel, right? So if you started turning down the fuel at 300 degrees, just give that, just start there as a standard. See where that takes you. See how you start monitoring it. And what I'm looking at when I'm at the roaster there trying to make decisions is I'm trying to just see how this is projecting. If this wasn't here, like if I randomly, sometimes your software may not work for you or whatever, power outage, or you're put in charge your battery, now you would have to go by temperature and time. Okay, and not bean temperature because you don't have that, but just maybe looking at the PID, maybe looking at the color of the bean, smelling it, and seeing how it smells and looks as it goes through this stage. So try to do that too, like just in case your software doesn't work, you're still going to be a skilled roaster, or a roaster who can make decisions, critical decisions without software. Okay, because sometimes that happens to me. I mean, it happens to me quite regularly, so I try to pay attention all the time and not just pay attention to just this. Okay, so while I am monitoring this, and this is my main this is my main teller, I guess. I've got my hand on the gas, sometimes if if I know I need to monitor. It all really just depends. I'm sorry that answer sucks, that it depends. But that's what it is. It depends is what's going on here from a dry end to first crack. And we're just trying to monitor it, okay? So this was my first production roast of Brazil when I came back, and I was trying like not to do the soak, and how did that affect taste and flavor. And then when I went to go cup it, because that's what it's all about, is the cupping, I said this one was ground a little darker than the sample roast, tastes a little old, pretty close and a match to the sample roast, so I'm happy with that. Good to use in the espresso profile. Cool, yeah. So I had some good body, perhaps, just some like really kind of flat, nutty chocolate notes. Nothing exciting. It's Brazilian based, not exciting. Okay, but I was happy that it pretty much tasted the same. Cool, I'm happy with that. As long as my sample roast is, tying into my, as long as my sample roast tying into my production roast, good. So I hope that helps. I know I can share a little bit more on that. I'll be going live on the weekend. It looks like in the evenings that you guys are are requesting the most time for me to go live. And so I think it'll be a good time for me to maybe just answer a little bit more specific questions. I don't know. I'll really try to help you guys out. And explain that fully. And I think if I get better questions, I can answer you better versus me just coming here and just like telling you what I do. I mean, that's good too, I think. But to get more in depth and to help you more, you need to ask very specific questions. Okay, cool. So I hope that helped. I think I went over everything I need to go over. If I could leave you with anything, Mike from Clash, he was like, it's like driving a car, right? Here you need to go very fast because you need to acquire a lot more energy. And then when you hit this curve, you still have a lot of energy, so don't turn it down yet. But as you start to come down and approach this, and you start to approach this curve here, you need to slow down tremendously, and you need to get there at a certain amount of time. So slow down in your car as you're driving along, and don't take any detours. And and if you see this thing going up too much, then hey, you need to decrease the heat. If you see it going down too much, you need to increase the heat. Okay, and so try to think like kind of like a couple of seconds ahead of where you think it's going if you're monitoring this ROR curve. That way, this looks good, and this looks good, and you hit your goals as you planned. Okay, so in the next video, we'll talk about this last part, development, DTR. We'll talk about light, medium, dark. We'll talk about calling it, when to call it, things like that, how I call it. This is all stuff how I'm doing it, all right? So you can develop your own style, and I'm going to tell you guys my style currently, okay? All right, good things. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.